All right. Yeah, we are live on YouTube. And I want to welcome everyone in this session. We're going to talk about cellulite, 3 proven methods to actually get rid of cellulite. If you are excited about that, go ahead and comment in the comments. Because there's a lot of theories out there and lotions and potions and gadgets when it comes to cellulite. People are telling you can't get rid of it. People think it's a fat issue, all the things. And what's the truth and what really works? That's what we're going to talk about in this session is live Q&A. And if this is the first time that you are joining me and you're like, who is this lady? Who is this chick talking about cellulite? What qualifies her? Well, I am Lydia Martinez Ebling, and I am a certified fitness and nutrition specialist, certified hormone health coach, and I've been in the industry for well over 25 years. I got to stop using that number because I think it might be 30 now, but I'm just going to stop at 25. So I've helped thousands of women now. I've coached thousands of women to significant inches lost, body fat loss, and health regained. And my whole mission in these sessions and with our channel is to help every woman over 40 and all women, you, to redefine how you approach health, fitness, and aging so you can live the best years of your life. Okay? So that's who I am, and let's get started. Are you guys ready to talk about cellulite? Do you know that over 85 to 90% of women struggle with cellulite? It's so frustrating. We're talking about like that cottage cheese, orange peely, lumpy, bumpy frustration that nobody really wants to look at. And before I talk about like the proven methods when it comes to actually getting rid of cellulite, because there's a lot of theories out there. As I said, there's a lot of theories. When people say you can't get rid of cellulite, people think it's a fat issue. And then you have all of these things that you see in advertising. You're like, do they really work? And that's what I'm going to get to the root of today. But how many of you have struggled with it? I've honestly, being in shape, I've struggled with it. You struggle with it because maybe you're thinking, I'm eating right. I eat well. Why am I having this fat issue? And the thing is, cellulite is not really directly a fat issue. See, before I talk about it, I think it's important to understand why we actually get cellulite and what is cellulite. And like I said, it's not really a fat issue per se directly, but what it is, it's a collagen, fiber, inflammation, muscle issue. It's a hormone issue as well. What do I mean? So, okay, this is how our body is made up and built. Our body, we have our skin, and then we have this fibrous layer, right? That think about like maybe like a fishnet that looks like a fishnet. I pulled these stockings out. Yes, I still have stockings. Does anybody wear stockings anymore? And you're like, Lydia, you have fishnets? Kind of, sort of. But I want you to think about this, right? So you have your skin, and then you have this fibrous net that's made of collagen and elastin. And then you'll have a fat layer, and then you have this fibrous layer again, but it's a little bit thicker. And then you have your muscle. And as I said, these fibrous, it's called fascia. You'll hear it's fascia septae, but you'll hear people refer to it just as fascia. And that fascia, like I said, is made up of collagen and it's made up of elastin. And what happens to that fiber, those fibers, this net is responsible for holding everything together. And when we start getting cellulite or start seeing this lumpy, bumpy issue, it's because there's a breakdown in this fiber. And the breakdown is there's a couple different things. As I said, it's a breakdown of collagen. It can be a damaged fiber. See, because with this fiber as well, you have fibrous threads. You ever look at like a piece of meat, piece of steak, and like a ribeye? What makes a ribeye so yummy? It's the fat, right? But you also have all that gristle within the steak. That's that fibrous like tendon and thread that's also within our body. And what happens to those threads, like I said, they can become damaged. They can actually, research is now showing because of our hormone imbalance, they could actually start to dissolve and atrophy, right? And what is the damaged part of it? The damaged part of it is that they can get really tight and they can stick together. So what ends up happening is these fibers start to break down, or if they get really tight, it's not it's not keeping everything nice and neat within our body. And it starts to get lumpy like this. You see, as far as now, we don't have the smoothness. And what will happen is that our fat cell will start to poke through that actual net. So it's not that, how many of you, you're like, I'm not even overweight and I have cellulite. Shows you it's not a fat issue, but it's a fiber issue. It's a collagen issue. It's a hormone issue. So how do these fibers get broken down? How do we start losing actual collagen? Well, there's a couple different things that can happen. Okay. If any of you have ever had kids, have you noticed, or did you notice during your pregnancy that maybe the cellulite was a little bit more prominent than when you were not pregnant and it kind of felt like it went away? And it's because we actually, that's how our body is made up with these fibers, right? We get cellulite. Where do we get cellulite? We don't get it in our chest. We get it in our butt, hips, and thighs, because we have these receptors. We have these estrogen receptors and we have these A2 receptors that are designed to protect our body and create that fat storage during pregnancy, right? In case there's a time of famine, because that's how that's, back in the day when we had the feast or famine type of lifestyle before modern advances, right? So our body still operates that way. But then for some of you, you're like, well, Lydia, I never had a cellulite issue. And then now I hit 40, I hit 45, I hit my 50s or maybe even older. And now all of a sudden you're seeing cellulite. Why is that? And it's because of loss of hormones, but also excess hormones. See, estrogen is our youth hormone, but we have over 15 different types of estrogens in our body. But the ones you hear about the most is estradiol, right? Estriol, estradiol, and estrone. Estradiol, right, is our favorable one. That is like really our youth estrogen. That's what helps us produce that good collagen, that what keeps our skin supple. It gives us our brain clarity, but also that estrogen, that type of estrogen is really important because it's androgenic. What does that mean? It means that it actually helps you build muscle. Okay. But as we start to age, what ends up happening is we go through a hormonal decline. And as we start going through this hormonal decline, our ovaries, you're like, okay, so what's going on? Our ovaries stop producing that estrogen, stop producing specific reproductive hormones, or estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, right? And what happens, it shifts from our ovaries to our adrenals. Now, all of this, now follow me here, because you're like, what does this have to do with cellulite? It has a lot to do with cellulite. Because that shift that happens, right? That estradiol, that is our favorable estrogen. Well, now we start producing more of estrone. Estrone it's not a bad estrogen, but it's not really a purposeful estrogen. That's what sucks. It's not our favorite thing. So we end up producing that. and we end up producing more fat. And it's kind of like an evil cycle. It's like the more fat you have, the more estrogen you have. The more estrogen you have, the more fat you have. And you're like, how can I be losing estrogen and have too much estrogen? See, because that's part of the issue. It's not necessarily that you just lost estrogen, but it's having too much estrogen that causes the breakdown in our collagen and in those fibers. And you're like, how does that happen? How can I go through menopause and have too much estrogen? Well, it's not just because your ovaries stop making that estrogen. Your fat cells are making that estrogen, and your adrenals are making that estrogen. And then you have what we call those A2 receptors. Those A2 receptors, what they'll do is it's called aromatization, and it'll actually cause and take your testosterone or DHEA and make even more estrogen. I know you're like, wow, that's a lot, right? I get it. It is. Like, but here's the issue. So what's the issue? It's an estrogen issue, it's a collagen issue, and it's an inflammation issue. So a few things that we need to do is that we need to balance out our estrogen. We need to reduce inflammation, and we need to trigger that collagen production. That's what we want. So it's not necessarily a fat issue. It's not 100% a diet issue. It's a combination of things. So you have all these different things going on, especially as you start to mature and your body's like, you know what, let's see what else we can throw at her. Right? Let's give her some cellulite too. So how do we actually get rid of cellulite? Well, there's 3 proven methods, right? And this is, this is not a guesstimate, an idea. It's something that you are going to want to put into place, and it actually works in order to get rid of cellulite. Okay. So you guys ready? Okay. All right. First thing is number 1, we have to fix the muscle problem. Okay. You really didn't talk about muscle. Okay. But I am now. See, as we start to mature and as we start to lose that estrogen, or there's really that estrogen and testosterone, progesterone, which are really they're reproductive, but are metabolic hormones, our body starts to go through a shift. And I've shared these stats with you before, but as we lose those hormones, our risk for heart disease goes up. We go from 1 in 7 to 1 in 3. We start to go through muscle atrophy, right? We're sarcopenia. So we start to lose muscle. Our body turns catabolic, right? Because of that loss of estrogen. So we have to fix that muscle issue. And there's a few different ways that we need to fix that muscle issue. Now we're specifically talking about cellulite. And again, we said we carry that cellulite within our hips, our butt, and our thighs. So those are the areas that we want to focus on. And often you'll hear fitness experts say, well, you can't really target fat. And you actually can. It takes consistency and it takes patience, but you can actually target that fat. There's so many things out there now that actually help you target that fat. And strength training, as some people are like, oh, Lydia, not the strength training again. I've been harping on it. You need to strength train, ditch the cardio. You need to pick up heavy things and put them down. But when it comes to the target area, our hips, our butt, and our thighs, you want to do specific movements in order to make that muscle more prominent, right? Because what you want is you want that muscle on your body to dominate the fat cells. But not only that, when we activate that muscle, we help blood flow. We break down that excess fat, because remember, the more fat we have, the more estrogen we produce. We have too much estrogen. We're breaking down fibers. Our fibers are getting tight. We're losing that collagen. I mean, all those different things that are happening. And muscle will actually help reduce that, right? It's going to slow down that impact. But one of our another issue when it comes to cellulite, because it's not just an estrogen issue, it's a testosterone issue, and it's an insulin issue, right? Because majority of women are insulin resistant, and we want to be insulin sensitive. And the more muscle you have, the more insulin sensitive you will be. Why is this important? Because if too much insulin is present, it will inhibit you from actually breaking down and burning fat. That's why you want to be insulin sensitive. So what are these specific moves that you can do? Okay. Well, you want to do squats. But the type of squats you're going to do, and people are like, oh my gosh, I've never even worked out before. I don't even, lifting a weight intimidates you. You don't even need a lot of weight. And in the beginning, you don't even have to have weight. It's the slow, controlled movement and the deep squat that will actually make the difference. Okay. They call them like bucket squats, or you can do sumo squats. Think about how a sumo wrestler stands and it's squatting down in that position. And don't worry, I'm going to put a link later down below to where I'll show you actually how to do these exercises. But also you want to focus on things like reverse lunges, because that's going to target your thigh area. It's going to target the quadriceps, so you can really smooth everything out. You want to do exercises like that focus on your ad and abductors. What is that? You're like, what is that? That's your thighs. Okay, so you ever been in the gym and you see that machine to where people are open and closing their legs? That's the motion, depending on where the weight is distributed, will either do the outside of the thigh or the inside of the thigh. But you can also do those with mini bands, and they call them clamshells. And again, I'll do a video for you guys and I'll put it down below. Things like step ups, right? You don't even need any weight. It's the slow, steady movement, controlled movement, or we call it like tempo movement, that causes that burn and that muscle activation and flow. And one of my favorite types of step ups are what they call crossover step ups. You want to talk about burn. I don't use any weight whatsoever. And I'm sweating and my butt, thigh, everything is burning. So you want to do those type of movements in order to target that area. So that's the first thing, is fix the muscle problem by strength training. Number two is that we got to fix the circulation and inflammation issue. Now, one of the things I said that it's not a fat issue per se, and it's not a diet issue per se, but it is. It's not directly, but indirectly. Okay, so as we start to age and as we start to lose estrogen, our good estrogen, and maybe we have accumulation of bad estrogen, right? What happens is our blood flow actually starts to slow down. And when this happens, is our lymphatic drainage will actually slow down. And our lymph nodes help get rid of excess fat and toxins. And blood flow is very important. That circulation to the muscle and the fibers is really important in order for your body to regenerate and produce more collagen. Okay, so this is what we want to do. That circulation. So I want you to think is that if you've ever heard of like lymphatic drainage, or a type of lymphatic massage, that's actually going to help that blood flow. But there's also different, I don't know, like I call them gadgets out there that you can get that actually, or that you can do at home, that are going to help increase that blood flow. It's going to help activate those fibers so they actually start to regenerate. You can regenerate even like if these are damaged, because I want you to think about they're breaking down, but also if they get tight, what happens is they stick together like glue and they start to pull down. So when they start to pull down, that's when you'll start seeing the protrusion of fat because there's no, those fibers, those tendons I was talking about, those threads are pulling down on your skin. So we want to take those threads that are stuck together and tight, we want to move them around and break it up so there's blood flow and fluid. And then when they start to release, then we start to have flat skin. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay. So what are some gadgets that you can get? Well, things that you can have at home to help, like one of the things I do is I do a deep tissue massage every month, which is really important. I do it just because the way that I work out. But for your circulation, get that blood flow going, that's something that you might want to look into. But if it's a, not even just a budget issue, if you want to do things in the convenience of your home, I call it the thumper. I'm like, Rye, can you get the thumper for me? But this has a bunch of different gadgets and you can help. This will literally help with that blood flow. And battery's dead. Oh, no, it's not. Can you see it? But it's going to help with that circulation and help break up or loosen up those fibers, that fascia. And one thing that you're going to do is you want to heat up the skin. So like going for a walk, do it once you get off a treadmill, do it after you get out of a hot shower, right? You want that your skin really warm for it to react better for that blood flow. But one of the things that I have that I really like is it's a captivation machine. And give me 1 second, I'm going to show this to you. This is just the box, okay? I got it right off Amazon, right? And it's a captivation machine. It's a 4iN1 beauty instrument. And it has, what it does, it has radio frequency, but it also has red light therapy. And it has these different wands that I can I can do different things with it. And one of the things that it has right here is a vacuum wand. And it heats up, but then this lights up, it gives me red light therapy. So this does radio frequency. This is the vacuum. And then this is the red light. So you guys have heard of red light, right? So this red light is going to help with collagen production. The radio frequency is going to help with collagen production. The vacuum is going to help with the blood flow that I'm talking about. Okay. It's great for sore muscles. It's supposed to help break down fat. I definitely notice a difference on my skin. I do it at least once a week. I think it costs about like $300. And the thing is with these, you've got to remember, you can go and get them professionally done. It's going to be more expensive, but it's also more high powered. Like if you go into an anti-aging facility, a beauty facility, this is what they do, their machines are hundreds of thousands of dollars. A $300 machine, it's going to be effective, but it's something that you're going to have to do on a regular basis to get the results. But I like all the different wands. Like this one is also red light therapy and it does the radio frequency. So I'll do these on my legs, but I also have a smaller one that I can do it on my face. So it's going to help with collagen production and that blood flow. Red light therapy, infrared sauna, lymphatic massage. And then there's another one that you can do. It's called a fascia blaster. You might have seen it. It's I believe, Ashley Black Guru. I didn't pull mine out because it broke. And I actually literally just ordered a new one yesterday. But it's a massager and it has these knobs and you do it with oil. And it's going to actually help loosen up those tight threads in order to smooth out, but it also can help break out fat. It's going to help with that blood flow. It's going to help. So when we help with blood flow, that means that we're flushing out toxins. That's what you want to do. And also you want to make sure that you stay well hydrated. I think that's kind of like a no-brainer because the more water you drink, right, you're flushing out toxins and fat. So you do want to reduce the fat cell, even though you may not be fat. What happens is, as women, as I was talking about, like during pregnancy, we carry our more fat in those areas because that's how your body, right, breaks or protects you, right? But as we start to age and our hormones are off, that fat you know the word I'm thinking of, distribution happens. With like some of us are like, I never had issues, now I have saddlebags. And it's because we're collecting, we are increasing in that not so favorable estrogen, and we are increasing our fat in those areas. So we want to focus on those areas of breaking that down and releasing that fat, because the more fat you have, the more estrogen you have. Okay. And then number three, third thing that we want to do is we got to fix, in another way, we want to fix the inflammation problem and the collagen problem. So I said a few minutes ago, it's not like a fat issue directly, and it's not a diet issue directly, but it is. If you're eating foods that are inflammatory, or you're eating foods that are going to increase your insulin, right? Or if you're eating foods that are going to increase our estrogen, cause an estrogen release, then there's an issue. Okay. So how do we fix that inflammation collagen issue with our diet? Well, one, we want to start increasing the amount of cruciferous vegetables that we eat. That's your Brussels sprouts, that's your broccoli. You want to increase your leafy greens. They're high in fiber, but what's the cruciferous vegetables? What happens is when you eat a cruciferous vegetable, it breaks down into what we call DIM. That is the short term of it, or yeah, what we call it. And DIM is powerful, right? Because DIM helps your body with the detoxification process, and it helps balance out estrogen and flush out bad estrogen. Why is the detoxification process important? Well, if we have too much estrogen, well, that means that we're not detoxifying properly. And when we have a buildup of it, what happens is when we have too much estrogen in our system, see, our body releases hormones. We metabolize or use up these hormones. And the role of our body, what it's supposed to do is flush out those used up hormones. Well, if we're not detoxifying properly, we're not flushing out those used up hormones. And well, what happens? It actually blunts our ability to produce good hormones, the quality things that we want. And estrogen dominance, you can be in menopause, losing estrogen and be estrogen dominant at the same time. So that means that we have to do the things that are going to help our body detoxify. DIM is a powerful ingredient. So I eat a ton of cruciferous vegetables, but I also take a DIM supplement. You want at least 100 milligrams of taking DIM regularly. But there's also DIM cream that you can put on your skin, and I do that as well. And I literally put it on my thighs, my hips, and my butt. I want to rewind for a second. Why? Because remember I said those are where our fat receptors are, our estrogen receptors. I call them fat receptors, right? Because we're carrying that fat. But our A2 receptors and our estrogen receptors, we're carrying the majority of it there. So that's why I put the DIM to help break down that estrogen and prevent that aromatization. Now I'm losing my words. Aromatase, the enzyme. You would think I just woke up, but I didn't. But so I use that. So this is really important too. With a DIM supplement, you also want to use supplements that, and I'll go back to the DIM topical, but DIM supplements that are going to help with detoxification process, like calcium diglucarate, sulforaphane, milk thistle, NAC, These are all great supplements in order to help flush out, right? But then a collagen supplement, right? Studies are showing that collagen is really important, right? In order for us to produce more collagen and to support our estrogen. We're losing estrogen, so it's harder for us to produce our own natural estrogen. So we want to take that collagen in to support our muscles, to support our gut, to support our bone. But studies show, like over a 90-day time frame of consistent of the right type of collagen, if your gut is actually healed, it'll actually help with fine lines, wrinkles, and it's going to help with that skin. That's what we want to do, right? Because if our skin's getting saggy, it's losing that elastin. We need to support that collagen. And I'm super stoked because the company that we're working with, we're going to be releasing this powerhouse collagen. It's collagen and creatine combined, but it has other ingredients you're not going to find on the market, but can't tell you what that is right now. Soon. But it's going to be super cool. Right, so supplements like that, cruciferous vegetables, reducing the amount of processed foods that you take in. Big culprits for inflammation, ladies, is gluten, dairy, right? Gluten is wheat, rye, barley, conventional cow dairy, because of the hormones. It can also cause it can be very mucousy to us and cause inflammation because it has an A1 protein that it's for some of us, it's hard to digest. And then processed foods in general. Even if it's gluten-free, it's still processed. So you're better off eating more, like make at least 80% of your diet whole foods and then minimal of processed foods. And again, drinking plenty of water. But back to the topical, because I know you guys are curious about that. So you can get a DIM topical. You can go right on Amazon. But what's really important is that to make sure that there's not progesterone in the DIM. Okay. See, DIM is it is an aromatase inhibitor. That's why it's so powerful. So taking DIM, remember when I talked about that aromatization, that meaning that you're taking your testosterone and breaking it down into estrogen, and you don't want that. You want your testosterone to stay testosterone because you need it. Okay. So the DIM is an inhibitor, so it'll help reduce the amount that you do. And that's why I use a topical, but you don't want progesterone in it unless your body actually needs progesterone. See, a lot of times they'll try to treat estrogen dominance. The reason that we're estrogen dominant is because our ratio progesterone to estrogen is off. So that's what they'll combine a aromatase inhibitor with progesterone, which is not bad, but you don't know if you need it. So what you want to do is if you wonder if you need it, then you want to go get your labs done and get your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, your thyroid, all of that checked to determine where you are. You know, are you estrogen dominant? Is your estrogen to progesterone ratios off? But DIM itself, you don't have to worry about. So I want to make sure that you look for that. Also, when it comes to your diet, ladies, I can't harp, just like how I harp on, strength training, got to get that protein in. Less than 30% of women get in ample amounts of protein. You have to make sure the older we get, the more important it is that we get our protein grams in. And I know I always get the question, you're like, Lydia, how much protein should I be doing? Simple rule of thumb, do 1 gram per body weight. Okay. So if you weigh 140, 1 to 1, and you're like, man, that's a lot of protein. Well, at least don't ever go under 100 grams of protein. You should never be going under 100 grams of protein unless you weigh less than 100 pounds. Okay. So that's an easy rule of thumb. There's also the formula of taking, your ideal body weight. So let's say you're 150, 160 right now, but you want to lose weight. what would be your ideal body weight, choose that, and then times it by 0.82. And that's going to give you a range of grams that you need to take in. So there you have it. Those are the things that you want to start focusing on. You're like, oh man, Lydia, that's a lot. It is, but it isn't. You can pick from each one and say, okay, let me do this for 90 days consistently. I'm going to suggest that you take pictures if you're struggling with that cellulite. Take pictures and then pick something out of each one that I recommended there, right? Because we know we got to fix the circulation problem, right? Maybe you're going to get like the captivation machine like I have, or maybe you're going to get the fascia blaster, or maybe you're going to start doing, just regular massages. Whatever it is, do it consistently for 90 days. Make sure that you're following as far as the diet recommendations, and then go back and take pictures again and see the difference, right? Because everything that I shared with you have the studies on them as far as actually working and assisting. Because your whole goal is to fix that net. You want to fix the net. You want to loosen it up, but you want to strengthen it at the same time. Last thing, and this is kind of a bonus because I said I was going to give you 3 things. But the last thing is that there's a couple different things that you can do to fix like the collagen issue. See, as we start to mature, and I kind of mentioned it, as far as hormones. Well, number one, fasting is free, right? Because one of the things studies show that when we go into autophagy, right? When we fast for a certain period of time, our autophagy will kick in. And what it will actually do is that it will the studies are showing that it will get hold of protein that's been used up, break it down and redistribute it so you can actually produce collagen. That's what we want. So fasting is anti-aging. So something that you want to look into, I fast regularly every day. I do anywhere from 16 to 18 hours. And then about once a quarter, I'll do a prolonged fast. A prolonged fast is really anything. I always say anything over 20 hours, but it's anything over 18 hours up to 72 hours. I never go over 72 hours because you don't need to, right? It's like you peak at for certain things that you want to do with fasting. There's no reason to go. Sometimes people are like, I'm just going to go longer. You don't need to if you're looking to do specific things, if that makes sense. Then bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. It's not for everybody, but it's something that you would want to consider. Because as we start to go through hormonal decline, our bodies, our ovaries stop producing the estradiol, that really good, favorable estrogen. We start producing more of that estrone. It's not, I don't want to say it's not our friend, but it has no purpose, right? And see, the reason that your body does this, it's kind of a compensating mechanism because it says, okay, our ovaries is not producing any more estradiol. So what it will try to do is tries to produce estrogen from that fat that we have. And the evil cycle, the double-edged sword, is that fat that we have, it produces that estrone, and estrone will produce more fat for us. Boo, right? So bioidentical hormone replacement therapy is going to help balance out our hormones. It's going to help replenish the hormones, that good estradiol that we've lost. Because you cannot eat your way to producing more estradiol. People are like, well, eat more yams, eat more soy. You can't, right? It just doesn't work that way. I wish it did, okay? There's things that you support it with your diet, but bioidentical hormone replacement therapy can be a game changer for you as far as your energy, as far as your focus, and as far as your collagen and skin texture, because you're going to help replenish that estradiol that you've lost. So you want to find a qualified health professional that deals in functional medicine and understands actually hormone replacement therapy. You just don't want to go anywhere, right? But just because they are doing pellets or shots or creams doesn't mean that they're qualified and actually know what they're doing, right? So you want to do your research on that. So that's a bonus for you. So there you have it, 3 proven ways, right? So I would love to hear your questions, your comments down below. And if you want more information, you're like, I need some more help. Well, you can plug into our community. We have a Hormone Reset 101 guide. It's completely free. It's a 14-day guide and mini course. It's in the link below. You can get it and you can join our community and you can be notified. Don't forget to like, ask your questions, and subscribe, right? Because I want to connect with you, right? There you have it. So now I'm going to let you all go and I want to answer my girls' questions.